you tired of putting yourself last? Of taking care of everybody else's needs and powering through to meet the next set of impossible standards? In our fast-paced society, we lose touch with our intrinsic worth, with the ability to value ourselves for who we are right now. Instead of living life exhausted, frustrated, and disconnected from your authentic self, maybe it's time to put yourself back in the life you've worked so hard to create. Join radio host and life choreographer Lora Cheadle and learn how to build your dreams and live your sparkle using the 5 steps of FLAUNT. Find your fetish, laugh out loud, accept unconditionally, navigate the negative, and trust in your truth.
Hello, welcome to FLAUNT, Build Your Dreams and Live Your Sparkle. As you know, my show is all about transformation, and transformation is such a deep, delicious, wonderful thing. And mostly, when we think about transformation, we think about personal transformation. And you know, we're going to talk a little bit about personal transformation today, but we're also going to focus on the transformation of an industry. Aha, I know, kind of a different, exciting spin there. My guest today is somebody who has transformed in so many different ways. But one of the things that he is doing now is he has created a company that will help transform the way people shop for legal services. I know, aren't you excited to learn more? I knew you would be. Anyway, today's guest is Butler. And without further ado, I just want to bring him on the show and dive right on in. So welcome to the show, Cash.
Hi, Laura. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, good. I'm so happy to have you here. Okay. As my listeners know, and as you know, this show is about transformation and building your dreams and living what I like to call your sparkle. Can you tell us a little bit about you and your background and the various ways you have built your dreams and lived your sparkle?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I've transformed a number of times. I was a reasonably decent athlete when I was younger, and I was more focused on sports than maybe I should have been on academics. That said, I transformed into, be able to become a good academic scholar, I suppose, having a few master's degrees under my belt now. And I actually started out working in banking right out of college. And I liked it. I ran information technology stuff. And then I saw an opportunity to get my master's in business administration. And I took I went and, updated my education. And then I got recruited into the legal space. So I thought I was going to always go back into banking and information technology. And, during my course of my MBA career, all of a sudden, what is this legal thing? Now, I had a little bit of understanding of the legal market because my younger brother, Mark, is a lawyer, a business litigator. But, it really was a new industry, new world, very exciting, something new to learn, which was really cool. So that's how I got into legal.
Yeah, it sounds like you like to learn if you've got all of this education.
Yeah, as I like to tell people, I learn something new every day, and there's not a person on the planet I can't learn something from. Sometimes Absolutely. It's what not to do.
Yes, and sometimes that's the more valuable education, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is learning something that lights you up, or what do you think are some of the biggest things that light you up?
So I really like learning. I like learning a lot. I love competition. Mm-hmm. I love to take something that is either fragmented or broken and make it better, either an internal business process or, in this case, external business processes. There's always ways to improve. There's, it's the people, process, technology, and fitting them all together to get to a result that helps improve either people's lives or business outcomes. It really doesn't matter. It's just this sort of path that, how can we do stuff better, faster, less expensive, more valuable? Mm-hmm. So that's my sparkle.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I like that because there are so many things that well, so many things in our whole world, in our society, whether it's business or personal, that, well, it's always been done this way, and this is how we do it.
Yeah, that's my biggest competition in today's world is what I call business as usual. Even when you can show significant time saving, significant cost reduction, significant quality improvement, there's a lot of folks that say, well, that's all great, but, we've been doing it this way for a while. We're going to keep doing it this way. So it's challenging to me because my mind does not work that way.
No, not at all. Okay, you can appreciate this story then. When I was a new lawyer and I was practicing in California, I had a really, really old senior partner. I mean, literally, he was probably in his early 80s. And one of the first assignments he gave me was to file some kind of a motion. And I had never heard of that kind of a motion. But I thought, well, I'm a new lawyer. I started researching it, couldn't find anything out about that motion. I went to one of the other partners and I'm like, he asked me to file this. And they said they quit filing those in like 1975.
That's, you know what? Unfortunately, that does not surprise me. It's a little too common.
Yeah.
But that's hilarious.
Yeah. I was like, I can't do that. I love that. So learning, competition, and taking broken, fragmented things and fixing them up. So what are you doing right now that kind of feeds your sparkle and helps you build your dreams right now today?
Well, the first thing I like to do is I like to meet people. I'm a people person. I enjoy people. I absolutely love to interact with people. I also like to interact and network and learn about stuff. Learn about not only the people, the process, the technology, the business challenge, the business, what the outcome should be. So, my new venture into ClariLegal it's about alignment, aligning the legal vertical market and from the business to the general counsel, to the law firm or law firms, to the vendors that support the law firms, the general counsel, and the business, and making sure that they all are, basically rowing the boat towards a common destination, a common goal. There's a lot of, it's sort of like, it can be like the game of telephone tag, but on steroids, trying to keep, projects on course. And not only projects on course, but the result. Sometimes it's not, the result that the business wants. Sometimes it's not very well communicated. And so, there's increased costs and, sort of projects going off the side of, off the rail, I guess. So that's what I'm really focused on. We have an interview series that we do called the ClariLegal Value Series that interviews people about what they need, what they want, and how they define value in either delivering or consuming a legal service. And by the way, it's not just legal services. It could be business services. It could be my mind doesn't stop. It's hyperactive maybe.
I like that. You said a couple of things that I kind of want to circle back around to. Alignment of all of these different pieces of the puzzle. I know for the listeners out there, they can probably relate to this, whether they're shopping for legal services, whether it's like, everybody makes fun of the government or large business or whatever. People are always saying the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
Yep.
And I see that in so many different industries, and it doesn't matter. There's always this confusion, and some people are going here and some people are going here, and then costs run amok and nobody knows what's happening. So it sounds to me like your work with ClariLegal is eliminating some of that and bringing everything into alignment.
That's exactly what our goal is. Our goal is to connect value sought to value delivered, and not in a way that there's a sort of in a win-win situation. So the providers win, they get more business that they can execute more efficiently. The buyers win because they get lower costs and better work or better product. And, at the end of the day, the corporation wins, or the organization wins, because it's not always a corporation, because they can define, we help them define what it is they're looking for, what their risk profile and tolerance is, so that the general counsel knows, the law firm knows, and the third-party vendors like electronic discovery or cybersecurity vendors know, and they can all deliver to a common goal to get an outcome that makes everybody happy. Mm-hmm. That's, the goal.
Yeah. And I wrote down that phrase where you said value sought to value delivered, because you're right. We all define value differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, whether it's in business or in personal, I think the most common example that I just kind of want to bring it down to is maybe for like a divorce lawyer, because the goal is to end up divorced.
Yep.
For some people, the value might be in a quick, efficient divorce. For some people, the value might be in that personal touch and connection and extra calls to find out how you're feeling. In some people, the value might be in winning a certain amount. So, just because I think divorce is such a common example of what is a successful divorce. Oh my gosh, it can mean a million different things to a million different people. And you take that to a business environment, and you're right. The value sought by the president and CEO might be different than the value sought by the CFO, which is different than the value sought by the legal team.
Hey, you're spot on. I mean, the CFO is going to be focused on the lowest cost possible. The other folks in the business want to get the best result possible. It could be, settling something to preserve reputation. There's all kinds of different, ways to look at these things. But the key is at the start to have these discussions, define them, and give folks a target. They need a target and what they need to deliver to. And then guess what? More than likely by doing that, it may be a struggle at the start. You're going to end up a happier client or a happier business executive, because you're going to get what you want, not what someone else tells you that you need.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that phrase, target to deliver to, and tying that back around to sports, because you started off by saying you were an athlete way back when. It is that target to deliver to. Where does the football goal? If you don't have the goalposts, where do you know where to take the football?
That's right. Sports is an interest. Particularly team sports have been very, very helpful to me in building my personality, or how I can sort of do things a little bit more intuitively than others, because I do a SWOT analysis. When for people I want to work with, I like to say, okay, I'm going to be on a hockey line with, Joe. What does Joe do well? What do I do well? How can we maximize our potential together? Or alternatively, I'm lined up across the face-off circle from, Dennis. And I say, oh gosh, he's bigger and stronger and faster. What can I do to counteract, or how can I win? So I'm sort of doing like a mental SWOT analysis, but it's sort of human behavior. It's interesting, but it really helps make those decisions and understanding a lot easier for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that, because not everybody has to be doing the same thing, but the whole team has to be reaching for that same target, for that same goal. Here's the basketball hoop. We're all going there.
Oh, yeah, and it's not just sports, but it's there's an orchestra. Everyone has their piece to play. They really the string section needs to interact with the brass section and the drum section, and things need to be optimized or choreographed optimally to deliver a product. So it's not just the sports thing, it's in anything we do, we can apply these kinds of things, figure out who does what, how can we deliver something that's the best we can do. So
yeah, Absolutely. So in building this company and building this concept, Clara Legal, I kind of want to walk you through my 5 steps of flaunt. So
Okay.
yeah, so listeners can kind of take you and your journey and then maybe learn, first of all, but then second, learn how they might be able to take these 5 steps and apply it to some of their own passions. You know, maybe they're thinking, I like learning too. I'm competitive too. Ooh, I could make changes in my industry, whether that industry is, healthcare or travel or, cosmetology. You
Hmm.
can take what you're doing and you can apply the concepts of ClariLegal almost to any industry.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so the first step of flaunt is find your fetish. And that just really means finding what you love doing. And I think you've answered some of that. You love fixing things. But
Yep.
yep, what are some of the other things that you love about Clara Legal and what you're doing?
I love networking. I love fixing things. I love helping people and organizations get a better results. If I were to sum up my superpower, it would be helping people. Try to help them either match them to someone that can help them out, or help myself, or that would be that would be my number one thing, is helping people, because I guess I'm a little bit of a believer in karma. It seems like every time I help someone and do someone a good turn, something really good happens to me.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's so true. And it seems to me like you're creating a company kind of around that core value.
Absolutely. I was just at a conference. We had a party, and I invited a bunch of my provider friends and management team. And someone mentioned that, because I was introducing people to one another, and, there was business transactions, friendships made, food and, drink and merriment around, and a, fun atmosphere. And someone looked at me and says, Cash, what you've done here with ClariLegal is you've automated your personality.
That's perfect.
Which I thought was pretty funny. I hadn't really thought of it quite like that, but there's some truth to it.
Yeah, I love that. And that moves right into the second step of flaunt, which is laugh out loud. I have always been a big believer that we do what's fun. We do what makes us happy. And if we're not laughing, we're not sending that joy and that love out into the world. And why bother? Um,
I
what makes
agree.
you laugh?
I I laugh early and often. I like to whistle while I work. So everything I do, there's enough tension and stress in the world. Why not make it fun? Why not make it, sort of happier? I mean, in my world, that happiness is a choice to me, and I choose to be happy. And I absolutely love to, just we can have serious discussions, but make them fun. Share a joke, share a smile, say hello, I mean, that's one of the things my mother taught me when I was a young person. She was always networking and she knows everybody. And, she doesn't ever have a bad word to say about anyone or anything. And she goes, Cash and Mark and Steve and my brothers, it costs me nothing to be nice or nothing to be friendly. I say hello. I say, how's your morning? Oh, isn't it a wonderful day? And, when I learned when I was a young girl, my mom, not me, that if I got mad at somebody, the only person it would hurt was be me. It would be, all that negative energy was tiring and, exhausting. So she instilled that in us as young people. And, we all sort of follow that sort of mom's direction.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you think for people who kind of were raised differently, do you think that's a skill that they can choose to adopt at any point in life?
I think it is a skill. It's like anything else. Practice makes perfect. You have to, figure out that this is something you want to do and achieve, and then you have to try it. You have to try it and see how it works for you. See if it improves the environment in which you find yourself. And it's just, it's repetition, it's practice, and it's second nature for me. I can't walk down the street without waving at someone or saying hello, or it just second nature. And that, I think the repetition, and then it's really not even measured feedback, but the feedback that you feel when someone else smiles back or says hello, or my gosh, Cash, you're really nice. That goes a long way.
Yeah, it really, really does. Now, you've been in some pretty serious industries, whether it's legal or banking or IT. Do you find in the professional environment it's harder for people to laugh?
That's a good question. I think it can be. It depends on the culture of the organization. So when people are not happy at work, I consider that to be a toxic culture or toxic organization.
Yeah.
And so I would remove myself from those types of things. That said, I know plenty of people who do not, that stay there and then come home and, complain that, oh, what a, bad day, and so did this and so did that. I don't find value in doing that. So I look for ways to, I don't say avoid it, but to minimize it. I mean, not every day is going to be perfect, but I don't have to take it out on anybody else. I mean, there's some people that are frustratingly negative. And there's other people that aren't. And guess what? It's not just top down either. It can be bottom up. I had a cranky senior vice president that I reported to at one point early on in my career. But, myself and a few of his direct reports were able to bring a little, I don't know, sunshine is the right word, but positive stuff into his world. And lo and behold, he started to change and, treat people a little more humanely.
Yes.
So it's interesting, though. It's really, the psychology of this stuff is really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And I like how you said it can be top down, it can be bottom up, but we always can inject a little bit of levity into the situation and hopefully create a better situation, not only for ourselves, but for everybody around us as well.
If you're on a team, you need that team to be happy and be effective. Happy people make good partners. Miserable people can really bring down organizations, companies, projects. I know my cousin calls it Debbie Downer.
Yes.
Debbie Downer. I'm going, yes. Oh, well, how about a Donald Downer? Downer. I don't want to be a Donald Downer.
No. And I know just for me personally, I call it sparkle, but when I'm living my sparkle and feeling it, I get more done and I make better decisions. And when I'm in a bad mood and I've got that negative mindset and everything's against me, blah, 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 I don't get as much done. And inevitably, the decisions that I've made when I'm feeling grouchy are really bad decisions.
Yeah, decisions made in haste most often, right? Knee-jerk reaction. It's hard to, it happens to us all, but once again, harkening back to my mom teaching, take 3 deep breaths and think, if you were going to say something, would you say that to your grandmother? And boy, that stopped me a number of times from, walking right over the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. My mom was a pretty big influence on me.
That's great.
So was my dad. My dad was great too. So I was really lucky with having such supportive and great parents that allow us to do what we like. Yeah,
that's a huge benefit. That's wonderful. And that kind of moves us right to the next thing, AU in FLAUNT, which is accept unconditionally. And I find that that's one of the most difficult things to do in life, because we always think, if only then I would, if only then I would, or when this happens, then I will. And you had this amazing environment growing up with some really positive people. But for people out there who didn't have that, they can just accept that and they can choose to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's been some difficult things in your life too that you've just had to accept unconditionally and move on. And I was
Oh,
hoping
sure.
to share some of those.
So I was reasonably good at hockey. I got an injury when I was younger, and I really didn't come back from it to become, what I thought was going to be a trajectory to a high level career or even, college experience as an athlete. But, you could either cry about being injured and, let that define you, just being, a hockey player. Or you can say, all right, well, this isn't working, so guess what? I better find an alternative. So there's a little bit of a mourning period. It's like there's always a little bit of like, oh, I'm so sorry for myself. But, sooner or later you gotta turn that around, or else you're going down a really dark path. So, when you hit a roadblock, you see if you can get through it. And if you can't, you adjust. It's like in the startup world or early stage world, when you think you have the most wonderful thing known to man, and then you find out people want something a little bit different. And so you have to pivot. And being in a startup world, you have to always pivot to meet the needs of your customer. The folks that don't pivot fail. So, some people look at these, happenings as, the end. I just, think it's just another thing to steer me onto the right course.
Yeah, yeah. And it kind of all goes back to that value sought and value delivered. You're starting up, you have this idea, but yeah, what is it that people really want? And that pivoting, it's value sought and value delivered. If people aren't seeking it out, you got to change.
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the constant learning as well is, I think you mentioned, learning what not to do is as important or more important than learning, than knowing exactly what to do, I suppose, would be. It doesn't work like that in the real world. It's, you're constantly learning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's, I love that you also mentioned that there is that mourning period. There, sometimes you don't know, and if I only had known, and I wish I would have known, but the choice is to quit or to pivot and to accept that and to figure it out and to move on.
Yeah, everyone has these, challenges throughout life, and it's how you learn how to accept and go forward. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in the e-discovery world. E-discovery can be a messy business. There's always problems. It's not so much, well, certainly you want to reduce your problems, but they're going to happen. It's not that problems aren't going to happen. It's how you recover from them and go forward in a better way. That's what I call the mark of a good electronic discovery service provider. It's, do their best to avoid and to mitigate the risk of issues. But when those issues do happen, how they recover from them in a positive, effective, quick manner. That's what is an A vendor versus a B or C or D vendor.
Yes. Oh my goodness, absolutely. Because so much time and energy, I think, can be wasted with this blame and what happened and oh, it's not really that bad. And then you lose all this time because you're not correcting a problem that should have been faced head on and been like, okay, here we are, accept it. That was really bad. Now what are we going to do?
Absolutely. It's accept it, take care of it. And generally speaking, and this is actually pretty good stuff for customer relationships or any relationship, you hit this rocket, this bump in the road, and there's, you build bonds through battling through the tough times, through the, oh my gosh, we had to really circle the wagons on this issue, but we got through it. And so it creates a little bit of teamwork, and it can actually build relationships, which is really, really pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just had a situation where that occurred, and we didn't, but I was brought in to help with a bump on the road, and everyone came out much happier than much happier after the fact than when they were going into it.
Yeah.
Everyone was ready to, sort of bare knuckle box, but now they're, patting each other on the back saying, what a good thing we did together.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And that's that next step, is navigating the negative. And I like to say navigation is an active act. You don't know what's coming up. You've got to react in the moment, and you've got to keep on keeping on.
You're spot on again. You have to, you prepare yourself for these kinds of situations through your experiences. But when things do happen, you have to be ready to, I'll pull up my father's, don't stick your head in the sand like an ostrich, Cash. If you got something, keep your head out of the sand and stare it straight in the eye and fix it. And that is, that's important. And understanding how to do that without panicking, but without frivolity is, that's a real skill. That's a real skill. Because sometimes if you're not panicking, people go a little overboard and make light of the situation when it's a serious situation. And that can be frustrating to other, either business partners, teammates. So it's, it's gauging the crowd, gauging the stakeholders to understand what types of responses and actions and how you deliver them. It's not, it's the delivery more than anything else, because usually the steps are very similar to fix something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, hey, you do this is not the best way to, hey, we may want to consider doing this. It's probably a little bit better path to take. So
yeah. And you tied it all together really well just with that navigation, because, we've talked about find your fetish, which is that spark, that inspiration, that learning, laughing, using humor to elevate, but to not push things over into frivolity, and to address it head on by accepting it, knowing what's next, and then making the change. I mean, it's this whole package. How do we do it with that connection? And I think since you love people, that helps you make an accurate assessment and pull it all together so change can happen.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, sort of, going back to this event where I was at and saying you've, automated cash. I mean, that's in essence what ClariLegal does. We're aligning these entities, whether they're people or organizations, to have better data, better information, to make better decisions, to get better outcomes, so that everyone in the value chain is rewarded fairly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes a good relationship.
Yeah. And I want you to talk about that a little bit, the way ClariLegal takes the navigation and helps that navigation process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Let me try this. So we match buyers of legal services to vendors or sellers of legal services, primarily in electronic discovery and cybersecurity. When these issues hit, there's a little bit of crisis that kicks in. And oh boy, we're in trouble here. What do we do? Well, if you come to ClariLegal, we have a way to help you define what happened, define what you need, and then go out to a pool of vetted vendors who may be able to, or can solve your problem. And then it's all about the value exchange. So we do some bidding, so that usually get to choose from anywhere from 4 to 12 providers who have the skills, capability, and scope to do the work you need that you've defined up front in the product. And they all bid on the job, so that, and then we matrix it out so that the buyer can look at the information, look at what they need, make an apples to apples comparison based on data, relationship, to select the partner or partners on the go forward. It really works well. Corporations get better outcomes and lower costs. Service providers, even with the lower cost bidding, the work is coming in so cleanly, they can execute it more efficiently. The time savings, just the organizational time savings is immense. We do in hours what an organization could take weeks or months to do. And the procurement process and the managing the vendors, and then then it's not just matching them, it's giving a facility to make sure that the execution works. So a communication path, oh boy, we ran into this issue, how do you want us to proceed? Instead of doing that in email or text message or water cooler conversation, we put it in software that's trackable, so that tomato ends up being tomato, not tomato end up being watermelon.
Right.
It's hot here in Michigan today. I'm thinking about some watermelon later on. Apology for the analogy. But,
I like that. So it sounds to me, for lack of a better word, that in essence, and correct me if I'm wrong, ClariLegal is almost like a project management system. So you take away a lot of the risk. You help people define what it is they want. You give them vetted, vendors. So you're taking away some of that risk, and you're managing that whole thing by asking the right questions. Do you want this? Do you not want this? This person can do this. Is that?
It is. It's part of project management, is part of it. It's really vendor management and procurement. So we automate the request for proposal. We automate the bidding process. We automate, there's a reason I can go out and get 12 vendors to bid on work with a full proposal behind it in 2 hours. Or in my past, it's been, well, when I did a big project, it was 2.5 months. And it was many people involved. So it saves thousands of hours, thousands of dollars in time. And let's face it, reviewing RFPs is not exactly the sexiest job in the world. So, by taking something that's sort of a hassle and making it slick and easy and trusted, there's a positive mood bump up too to the people that are involved in this situation. So procurement, vendor management, project management, those are the three sort of managements that we tackle.
Right. No, that makes sense. But just in terms of the whole navigating the negative, it seems like you've streamlined so much that you've taken so many, there's room for error, and you've taken away a lot of that room for error.
You're correct. You're absolutely correct. It's room for error based on, cumbersome work, poor information.
Yeah.
We get good information. We do it quickly, efficiently. We get the right targeted information for people to make decisions and for the providers to execute towards. It's really streamlining.
Oh, yeah. And, we talked earlier about sometimes you learn the most by making a mistake. We don't know what we don't know. And it seems like by using ClariLegal, people will start knowing what they don't know.
You're spot. I mean, so I lived the problem. That's how I came up with this concept of ClariLegal. I was the poor guy in the corner office writing our responses to proposals that were 200 or 250 pages long. Just, boy, thank God I wasn't on a high floor and with the windows open, because I might have swan dive. But then when I had some people on the buy side of the equation, because I was on the vendor side of the equation, come to me and say, Cash, you're an expert at this stuff. I have these 15 proposals for a multi-million-dollar litigation. Could you line them up for me? And this will be competitive intelligence for you, is what the quote was. And I'd say, well, sure. Well, it took me 4 days of my life that I will never get back. And I was going through it like, quote unquote, expert. And that's when the light bulb really went off. It's like my job filling out RFPs to win work as a vendor was always, a pain in the neck. But boy, oh boy, these buyers, they're in a really rough position because it's hard to compare these things. It was really, so when I saw that there, more than just, the vendor part was hard, that was time for me to make a change and to try to fix this problem as a neutral third party software.
Oh, yeah. And listeners, I just want to bring that all back down and have this little moment here. This, Cash is talking about something that was one of his biggest pains. It was hard to do. It was boring to do. He couldn't compare apples and oranges. It was frustrating. He wanted to jump out the window. He took his biggest pain point and he's created something beautiful and brilliant and helpful out of it. And please listen to that. Let that sink in, breathe out. What is your biggest pain point right now? Could that be the universe telling you, yoo-hoo, maybe you can do something about it. Maybe you can build your dreams and live your sparkle by taking the knowledge and the wisdom and the experience that you have gained through having this pain point and turn it into something like Cash did.
I like that. I like that. You know, it's funny. The entrepreneurial mindset is someone says problem, all the entrepreneur hears is opportunity.
Yes. Yes. Because problems aren't bad. They are a normal part of life. And
Yes.
you're right. What can we do with that problem?
Yeah, I like that. We'll have to coin that saying.
Yes. Yes. See, there's something. Let's go for it. And that kind of moves us to that last step of FLAUNT, which is the T, and that's trusting your truth. And trusting your truth is huge. We could probably talk 2 hours on trusting your truth, but it's all about knowing what's right for you, knowing where you need to be, even if you're not sure that you're capable of it, putting yourself out there and doing it. So you're talking, Cash, about, you know, having this frustration, can't line up the buyers and the sellers, can't compare these proposals, blah, 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 blah. Where was the moment where you did see that opportunity and go, you know what? I am the guy for this.
Well, I've always been entrepreneurial. Running departments, I ran them like businesses, small businesses, running organizations, always done that. That said, when I had an opportunity to fix what I consider a fragmented and broken market, I had to jump on it. It's something that I needed to do. It wasn't really a choice for me. I had to do it. There was this thing that I needed to fix and needed to help people with. I was, frustrated. And by the way, my frustration level wasn't anywhere close to some of my peers' frustration levels. So I felt it almost as a, sort of Don Quixote-like quest to fix this thing. And it just, I left a well-paid job to start my own thing and spent a lot of money on building the software, building the company, building the team. So the reverse polarity on the funds was troubling. Not so much to me, though. I'm doing something that I like and that I love. And I know at the end of the day, it is rewarding personally, professionally, and, it will be more financially as we continue to grow. But it wasn't a question of if, it was when. And I don't think I could go back to a extraordinarily large corporation. I'm used to building things. That's what I like to do: fixing, building, growing. Sometimes in a large organization, you get, you have to go through layoffs. You go through other organizational challenges that aren't customer focused. I want to stay focused on the customer and focused on the stakeholders, and not spend my entire life, worrying about internal politics, things like that. I like what I'm doing now.
Yes. Yes. And I just want to go back to something that you said, because it's just the epitome of trusting your truth. When you said, the reverse polarity on finances and you're putting all this money into it, it's almost, and then you said, I was worried, but not really. Mm-hmm. That's trusting your truth, because, I hear you on that. There's things I have just dumped an extraordinarily large amount of money in, and sometimes I'll think, this should really concern me, but it just doesn't, because I know it's what I need to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's money well spent. It's, you can't really put a price on happiness, and fixing, finding your sparkle, executing towards something that you really like and really enjoy, and working with people that you really like and really enjoy. I mean, one of the greatest things about starting a company is I get to choose who I work with. And I am very selective in building that world-class team, and everyone is positive. It is important to me to for everyone to, sort of row the boat in the right direction, and, be a little happy and rewarded for the kind of work we do. And that's, so I look for characteristics in people that align with I guess, my values or the company's values. I guess they're one and the same right now.
Which is perfect, because again, that's trusting in your truth. It's saying, this is who I am, and I do tend to see things, a glass is half full as opposed to half empty, and I like having humor, and I like looking at my problems, and I like fixing things. And yeah, those are the kind of people you want on your team. So yes, make the company you. I think that's the perfect thing to do in trusting who you are.
Yeah, the cup's overflowing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, that company attracts the right kind of clients too.
Yep, everything aligns. I mean, the universe starts to align when you're doing, you're going about things in a positive fashion.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So how big is this going to go? I mean, I feel like you are very aligned in your truth and your purpose and your mission. What is your, grand vision here?
Well, I have big plans, but we need to stay focused on the executing what we have today in the legal space. But I have been approached by a number of people in the procurement and vendor management that do procurement and vendor management in other industry sectors that say, oh my gosh, what you're doing here is way better than what we have. And by the way, can you make it for us? Can you make it for real estate? Can you make it for software development? Can you make it for manufacturing? I'm in Ann Arbor, we have in the greater Detroit area, we have all kinds, Ford, GM, and parts suppliers and everything else. And I have these guys knocking on my door saying, when are you going to, get through this legal thing and come, help us? So, but back to the real thing is you have to focus on, sort of one step at a time.
Yes.
You have to focus on the legal, then, perfect that and build that and generate revenue to grow not only that, but the next vertical market that we can execute in. I'm a serial sort of entrepreneur type of guy. I don't think I'll ever retire. There's always problems to fix. There's always things to do. And I would get bored. This is the closest thing I found to competitive sports, starting a company. That, it's a good reason for me to wake up in the morning.
Yeah. It is. And that's just the whole epitome of flaunt too. All those steps come together to putting yourself out there, to flaunting who you are and what you do, and just loving every moment of it. So yay, kudos to you. You're right. It is like sports. It's a fun game. Life is a fun game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fun game that you go through smiling.
Yeah, totally. And just in the creation of ClariLegal, and just in your own life, you were saying there's the software. You had to build the software. I know you did some IT stuff, but it's my guess that you probably didn't already know everything.
Yeah. You surround yourself with people that complement you and that, have experiences that you don't have and expertise that you don't have. That's part of that team build. How do I play on a hockey line with these guys or gals to be successful? Yeah. And that's a key thing. Like ClariLegal could be applied in government contracts, for instance, and I don't have experience that, but I know someone who does, and I know someone who can help me with it, and I know someone that but that's what I look for.
Yes.
You can't be the all-knowing.
Yeah.
That's for a higher level person than me.
And I think you're such a great example of that, because I'm guessing there's listeners out there who are like, yes, this is awesome, but he already knew that, and he already knew that, and I don't know that, and I can't do that, blah, 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 blah. But you didn't already know that, and you just said it so well.
Nothing is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is impossible. When you have an opportunity, you have a challenge thrown your way, there's always an opportunity to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, to ask other people to help you figure it out with you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Because you're right. People know things, and it's probably a big joy for them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Use their gifts.
I mean, use their gifts in ways they want to be used, right? So lots of people have all these, we used to call it finding the hidden resource. There's people that are doing stuff that are maybe stifled in their current role or position or in their job title, but they have another side to them and other things that they want to do and want to explore, and they feel sort of locked into this sort of framework. I believe in lower walls between the functional areas and the types, and to allow people to really, an engineer might want to participate in marketing, and the marketing might want to participate in software development or user experience or finance. I mean, there's, you got to allow people and organizations the opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And to do stuff they like to do.
Oh, yeah. And I like how you mentioned kind of that cross-functional, an engineer might want to participate in marketing. There's this great story, and I don't know the facts of it, so I'll just tell the story without the facts. But it was a development of something. It wasn't penicillin, but it was like tuberculosis or something like that. And it was the milkmaid who literally went into the barn and milked the cows, who ended up making the discovery because she knew something about the way the cream was sitting, out. Yeah, where the scientists are sitting there working on it. She noticed it because her industry was milk and how the cream rises, and I can't remember all the details, but it's often not in that functional area that we get the greatest gain. It's somebody on the outside looking in who doesn't know what we know.
You got it. It's a second set or a third set or a fourth set of eyes. Someone that's looking from the outside in can often see. It's like doing a crossword puzzle. You can, scrutinize and get frustrated. Someone else takes a fresh look, or you put it down and you pick it up the next day, or, that fresh look often, that's your sort of, your aha moment. It's important to integrate cross-functional thought.
Yeah.
I don't even want to call it opinion, it's thought. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's never to be discarded.
Yeah. And that's what I'm also seeing as the brilliance of Clara Legal. You're bringing in, the knowledge from the vendors, you're bringing in it's this whole cross-functional thing, and you're having people look at it from the outside. And I think you've raised the level. Not only are you solving problems, but I think you've raised the whole level of thought on this one.
I think so. I mean, having the data to back up the, outcomes is really important. We're really using, technology enhanced business process improvement to speed things up, make them more efficient, but we're also using marketplace economics, and marketplaces have been around forever, to get that value exchange going. Here in price, people sometimes confuse price with value. Price is just the measurement of value. It's what, someone is willing to pay for something does not mean what value they, it's not the only component. It's just a measurement of it. So it's so important to the marketplace economics and making, I'll give you another example. So we automate the RFP process, and people dread the RFP process. They dread it. It's an administrative burden. They do everything they can to bypass it. So, but to say, thou will do an RFP process. There were good reasons for it. It was to quickly and accurately identify vendors who have the ability to do your work safely, accurately, and at a reasonable price, and to be able to do it quick. Over time, that process has morphed into something that's undistinguishable, it's just crazy. We're bringing the RFP process back to its original intent, quick, easy, effective, valuable. Yeah. And then, it just helps everybody in the value chain appreciates the reduced administrative burden and the information that they have to make better decisions. How should I bid on this? Well, here's some information. You might want to bid like this. How should I ask for this? Well, we have that too. So
yeah, brilliant.
It works pretty cool. It's, I didn't make up marketplace economics. I'm pretty sure that predates, the pyramids.
Right. Oh, well, Cash, thank you so much for your time and for your energy today and for your willingness to share both your personal story as well as your professional story. And I hope the listeners have a few different takeaways here. I hope, first of all, they get this huge takeaway that their problems are only opportunities, and that, like you, they can transform not only themselves, but maybe their industry, and also maybe industries they know nothing about. So thank you for that. I wish you the best of luck.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Laura. This was really a pleasure and an honor. I truly appreciate the opportunity.
You are most welcome. And listeners, take a lot of this to heart. Have a fantastic week. And as usual, don't forget to flaunt.
Tune in next time to Flaunt. Build your dreams, live your sparkle with radio host Lora Cheadle every Wednesday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Come release self-judgment, reveal your naked self-worth, and re-choreograph a life filled with joy. Flaunt. Find your fetish, laugh out loud, accept unconditionally, navigate the negative, and trust in your truth. Find out more at LoraCheadle.com. That's LoraCheadle.com.